we're going to get started here in just a minute. My name is Stacy Galba. I'm the Title IX coordinator. We're very excited to welcome Marissa Cohen as our Sexual Assault Awareness Month speaker. And Marissa, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Stacy, for having me. Hi, everyone. I can't see you. So I'm staring at a black screen, but I'm really excited to be here. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it this morning. My flight yesterday got canceled because of storms in Chicago. My flight this morning got canceled because of storms in Arkansas. And so I wasn't able to make it. And I'm really bummed because I wanted to meet you all. But we had to be a little flexible, and I really appreciate your flexibility with me and letting me still present virtually. So before we jump in, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Marissa. I am the 2024 National Campus Speaker of the Year. I'm an eight-time best-selling author, and I have a podcast called Healing from Emotional Abuse that has charted in 29 countries. It's streaming everywhere if anybody wants to give it a listen and a follow. Just so you know, because of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we are talking about very sensitive topics like healthy and toxic relationships and consent. And just so you know, I do use the legal terms and the legal verbiage. So if at any point you start to feel overwhelmed or triggered, there's a few different things you can do. First of all, you can get up and leave the room, take some deep breaths. A good walk outside with some cold air will shock your system and help you kind of decompress. You can also put in earbuds and start listening to music that helps you decompress, that might regulate you. Something else you could do is snap your fingers. If you snap your fingers, you actually trick your brain to send receptors to your fingertips and not your eyes. It stops you from crying. My background and my degree are in cognitive neuroscience, and that was my one takeaway. So just so you know, this program is very interactive. And so I'm going to be shifting between my presentation and then another program that'll allow me to interact with you better called, what's it called? Mentimeter. So if you've never used it, there's a QR code on the bottom of each slide, and then you scan that, and then you can contribute to the slide. So if anybody has any questions, I have the chat open, and I'm sure Stacy or somebody will type your question into the chat, or you can just kind of shout it out. Stacy, if you wouldn't mind like interrupting me and saying there's a question and you shout it out, that way I can answer questions as they come. I'll also stay after if you have any personal questions or questions that just didn't go answered. So if everyone's cool with everything, we're just going to kind of jump right in.
That's good.
Okay, let me share my screen. I'm not the tech savviest, I will be honest, so it might take me a minute. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So welcome to Relationships, Red Flags, and Risk Reduction. As the title says, we're going to be talking about different types of relationships, red flags in those relationships, things to be aware of, and then risk reduction. So ways to keep yourself safe from unhealthy relationships. Okay, I already gave you my content warning, so I don't need to do that again. Getting into relationships may seem tempting, but so is getting on the Titanic, and look what happened there. I'm just kidding, obviously. Relationships are incredible. They help us connect to each other. They help us grow and learn about ourselves. It's just about being particular about the relationships that we allow and the people that we allow into our lives. A lot of the memes, not this one, but a lot of the memes in here I make, and I'm really proud of them. So if you give me like a pity laugh, that would make me really happy, but no pressure. All right, so we're going to start really simply. There are two different kinds of relationships. There are romantic relationships. That's anything with intimacy. So that is partnerships and situationships and hookup buddies, marriage, spouses, things like that. And then there's platonic relationships. That's friendships, family members, acquaintances, work colleagues, peers, anyone who you have a relationship with, who you have a connection with, but it's not intimate. So when you think of relationships, what are some healthy behaviors? What are some healthy characteristics that you look for with friends, with partners? Shout them out.
We have boundaries.
Good boundaries. Yeah. They give boundaries, right? They set boundaries, but they also respect our boundaries. That's an awesome one. What else?
Supportive. Supportive.
They're supportive, right? They have your best interest in mind. They show up for you, right? They're there when you need them in good or bad. Awesome. Supportive. Yeah, incredible. What else?
Honest.
Honest.
Honest. Someone who tells you the truth, right? Someone who doesn't lie to you, talk about you behind your back, or betray you. Yeah, amazing. Anything else?
Reliable.
Reliable.
Reliable. Someone who shows up, right? Who's accountable for their actions, who's there when they say they're going to be there. Amazing. Anything else? So we've got a lot of them. Someone who is communicative with us, right? Who shares when they're feeling bad, who we feel like we can talk to without judgment, who's a safe person for us, right? Someone who has integrity, who's where they say they're going to be, when they say they're going to be there. They're true to themselves, right? And then there's equal power, right? Nobody has authority over the other person or like lords their authority over the other person, right? It's equal. We give and we take, right? What about toxic traits? What don't we look for in friends and partners? It's the opposite of this list.
Gaslighting.
Gaslighting. Gaslighting is an amazing example. Gaslighting is manipulating somebody and then making them feel crazy for their perspective. So it would be if I slapped you in the face and then you said, why would you slap me? Ow, why'd you hit me? And I said, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? I've never hit you in my life. I've never hit anyone. You must be nuts. Right. And so I'm telling you that it didn't happen. And then I'm making you feel crazy for thinking that it did. But over time, what that does is that gives me mind control over you. So moving forward, you're more likely to believe my perspective and my memory of a situation than yours. You are more likely to think that you're crazy or you're imagining it. I have a family member who gaslights quite a bit and likes to tell me that childhood memories I have are not real, and that these things never happened. And I have obviously caught on to this pattern, and I don't fall for it. But with somebody that you love and respect, that becomes a big issue, right? We stop believing ourselves, our experiences, our memories, and our realities, and we are more likely to believe theirs. What else?
Controlling.
Someone who's controlling, who tells you who you can and cannot spend time with, what you can and cannot eat or dress, or like wear, right? What you can and cannot do with your time, right? Someone who tries to control you. Awesome. What else?
Isolating.
Isolating.
Someone who isolates you, who cuts you off from your friends and your family, or from programs or organizations or jobs that make you feel good. They're trying to possess your time and cut you off from your sphere of influence. Awesome. What about withholding needs? If you are having a bad day and you want somebody to vent to, right? And that person tells you, I don't have time for you. I don't have time for this, right? Or they use intimacy or emotional compassion against you, right? They use it to leverage what they want, right? That's withholding needs. What about threatening behavior, right? Someone who threatens you and, punches a hole in the wall next to you or takes your phone and throws it when they're angry, right? Those are very, very, very toxic behaviors. Another one is the silent treatment. And we see this a lot in college, where if you're in an argument or a disagreement with your partner and they just cut you off, they stop talking to you altogether. Who has the power in that situation? What do you think? They do, right? They have the power. They're the one in control of the situation, and you're sitting there anxious or feeling guilty or feeling like you need to prove to them why they need to talk to you, right? So that's a power dynamic, a power shift. So using the silent treatment to control someone and to manipulate someone is a big, big toxic red flag. Is there anything on this list you want me to go over or to comment on? No? Say again?
No questions here.
Okay. All right. So we're going to jump to, all right. Can you still see my screen
Yes.
with the, what is an example of a toxic relationship?
Mhm.
Okay. So on the screen is a QR code. So scan the QR code. Think of your favorite TV show or movie and type into the box what an example of a toxic relationship, a toxic relationship in your favorite show or movie is. Does everyone see the QR code?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Ooh, I've never seen Ted Lasso, but I heard really good things. So, can you can someone tell me what is toxic about their relationship?
Everything.
Give me like an example, like what do they do or what's a situation? Gilmore Girls, the entire show. I like it. Dean and Rory from Gilmore Girls. Yep, that's a good example of a toxic relationship. Towards the end of their relationship, definitely. Kelly and Ryan from The Office, for sure. They're incredibly codependent. Ryan is super manipulative. He's always leveraging what he can get from Kelly, and Kelly is incredibly codependent and relies on Ryan for everything. I'm trying to see The Big Bang Theory. Oops. Oh, let me move this. Who does it say from The Big Bang Theory? I'm so sorry, I can't see behind it. Chuck and Blair from Gossip Girl. They are super toxic. Oh, that's a really good one. In Breaking Bad, the relationship between Jesse Pinkman and Walter White could be considered toxic due to Walter manipulating Jesse constantly. Awesome. The Simpsons, Marge and Homer. Homer and everyone, because Homer is just a toxic individual. Awesome. These are great examples. In Breaking Bad, Skyler gives Walter the silent treatment and she finds out what he does. Awesome. These are great examples. What about healthy relationships? So now let's do the same thing. What's an example of a healthy relationship in a show or movie? It could be the same shows, it could be different shows. This one's a little bit harder. We have a little bit harder of a harder time coming up with healthy examples, and I'll explain why in a moment. What about think of the show Friends. Who's a healthy relationship in Friends?
Shout it out to Monica and Chandler.
Monica and Chandler. Yeah, absolutely. They're very healthy. They communicate really well. They trust each other. They respect each other, right? When they're going through hard times like infertility and career issues, they're supportive of each other, right? And they're very respectful of each other's boundaries. They defend each other and advocate for each other when other people are getting on their case. Absolutely. They are very healthy. Awesome. Can anyone think of anything else?
Parks and Rec, Ron and Diane.
Parks and Rec, Ron and Diane.
Ron and Diane. Oh yeah, Parks and Rec, Ron and Diane. Same thing. They communicate well. Ron is like a very manly man, so he doesn't communicate too much, but with her, he's communicative and he's very respectful. He's very loving, right? They trust each other. They rely on each other, but not in a codependent way. Awesome. I love Parks and Rec. Great show. What else? What do you think? Okay. So for toxic relationships, this is my list. Rue and Jules, anyone seen Euphoria?
Yes.
So Euphoria, every part of that show is incredibly toxic, but these two, I've only seen snippets of it, and they are always yelling at each other. They're always manipulating each other. They're always cursing at each other. It's never, it's consistently hostile and very like unstable. And from Gilmore Girls, I said Lorelai and Emily, her mom. The mother-daughter relationship is based solely on what can I get from the other one, using money as a mechanism for control, a lot of manipulation, a lot of, passive aggressiveness. Anyone seen The Office? I know we said Kelly and Ryan, but Michael and Jan were also incredibly toxic. Michael was very codependent and very needy. And Jan was very abusive, right? She was very selfish. She would take from Michael in the dinner party episode. She broke his TV. She threw his trophy at the TV. That's threatening behavior. That's emotional abuse. She made him sleep on like a footrest, basically at the end of their bed. Kicked him out of his own bed. Very, very toxic. Harley Quinn and the Joker, very toxic, abusive, manipulative, physically, verbally, emotionally abusive. And then Ross and Rachel from Friends. I usually get some disagreement on this one, but really they didn't communicate well, right? Were they on a break? Were they not on a break? It took them 10 years and they still couldn't figure it out because they didn't talk to each other, right? They're talking at each other and hurting each other and only interested in each other when the other person was with somebody else. They didn't trust each other. Every time Rachel had a male coworker, Ross would go nuts, right? And they didn't respect each other. They didn't respect each other's boundaries. They didn't respect each other's interests. Did somebody say something?
No.
Oh, okay. Maybe my echo, I guess. But they were very, very toxic. And then for healthy relationships, anyone watch Schitt's Creek?
Yes.
David and Patrick were really healthy. David was a very selfish person, and then he met Patrick, and Patrick kind of cooled him down, right? And I'm not suggesting that we can change people. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But they were very once they got together, they were very communicative, very respectful of each other. They goofed on each other, but that was like their language, right? That's how they communicated and showed that they loved each other. Jake and Amy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, they were both very ambitious and competitive, but they motivated and supported each other. They were very respectful of each other's career goals and personal goals, and very communicative. And then Chandler and Monica from Friends, we went over. Do we have any questions about this? No. Okay. All right. So red flags, when you go to the beach and you see a red flag, what does that mean? It means danger. It means don't go in the water. It means, there's something, the undertow is strong, or there's a shark or an animal or something in the water that's there to hurt you, like algae or something, right? But it's the same thing in relationships. When you see a red flag in a relationship, it means danger. It means do not continue this relationship. It means get out and get safe. So these are some examples. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the more common red flags that we see in relationships. Has anyone ever heard, if you love me, what happens at the end of that sentence? If you love me, you'll buy me a PS5. If you love me, you'll stop spending time with your best friend. If you love me, you'll skip class today and just hang out with me. No matter what happens at the end of that sentence, they are leveraging something for you to prove to them that you love them, right? If you love me, prove it by buying me something you can't afford, by spending time with me when you have other responsibilities, by cutting other people off. They're leveraging your emotions for their gain, right? For their benefit. So if somebody says to you, if you love me, you'll buy me ice cream, right? At the end of the day, they're still manipulating you to prove that you love them, prove your emotion to them, your emotional connection to them, prove that you're going to do anything for them, basically. Jealousy is a big red flag. In movies and TV, we have always seen it as romantic or flattering, right? Oh, they're jealous of me spending time with other people because they just want to be around me all the time because they love me so much. Oh my gosh, that's so romantic. It's not. It's possessive and it's controlling. It's all about having control over your time, control over your access to other people and other people's access to you. Jealousy is a big problem. So if you have a partner or a friend who gets jealous when you're spending time with other people or engaging in activities that they don't want to be a part of, and they're jealous of you doing that and try and stop you from doing that, that's big problems. Gaslighting we went over. Like I said, this is not an exhaustive list, and I don't think that you need me to kind of break down each one, but is there any on this list that you want more clarity on? Because I think that all of these are very problematic red flag behaviors. For example, if people in your life, like your friends or your family, don't like your partner, they tell you or they show you or they stop really spending time with you when you're with them, that's showing you that they see something you don't, right? When we're in a new relationship, we get these love blinders and we rationalize and justify bad behavior. Whereas our friends and our family, the people in our lives that are significant and care about us, they don't see that. They're there to protect us. They're there to see through those love blinders and see through the bad behaviors. And they'll tell you or they'll show you that they don't like them. And that's because they're defending you, because they love you and they want to protect you, right? So if significant people in your life don't like your partner, that's a big red flag, something to consider. It doesn't mean that you have to break up with them right then and there, but it means it's something to definitely keep track of, something to definitely take into consideration. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is there anything else on this list that you want me to go over or that is interesting to you?
Nope.
Okay. Y'all are quiet. All right. I found this really cool partner. They keep trying to control me. These are red flags to leave the relationship. These are red flags to leave the relationship. All right. Office fans, this is one of my favorite scenes. This is an example of gaslighting.
I'm just saying that you can't be sure that it wasn't you.
That's ridiculous. Of course it wasn't me.
Marijuana is a memory loss drug, so maybe you just don't remember.
I would remember.
Well, how could you if it just erased your memory?
That's not how it works.
Now, how do you know how it works?
Knock it off. Okay, I'm interviewing you.
No, you said that I'd be conducting the interview when I walked in here. Now, exactly how much pot did you smoke?
So that scene, Dwight in the hat was interviewing everyone in the office because they found a joint in the parking lot. And then Jim, the guy with the shaggy hair, flipped the script on him and was gaslighting him and making him believe that he was actually the one that had the joint. So it's just a silly example, but I love it. All right, red flags are a danger, not a challenge. Until next time. All right, so we've talked about red flags. Who's ever heard of a yellow flag? Has anyone ever heard of what a yellow flag is? No? I believe that. We don't really talk about yellow flags. Yellow flags is that icky feeling in the pit of your stomach when something doesn't feel right, but it's not dangerous. It just makes you uncomfortable. Like when you go out to eat with a friend or a partner and they're rude to server staff or the service staff, the waiters, right? It doesn't make you feel good. It makes you feel kind of uncomfortable and embarrassed to be around them. It's not a dangerous behavior, but it's a yellow flag. It's something to consider. Think of it like a caution sign or like a stoplight, right? So a red light on a stoplight means don't go. It means stop. A yellow light means proceed with caution, right? Take this into consideration. This is a behavior that feels a little bit off or makes me uncomfortable or gives me the ick. And I should be aware and kind of keep track of this. So some examples. If they talk about their friends or their ex-partners or their family members or somebody like people in hostile, negative ways, and that all the time, right? Or if they say, all my exes are crazy, right? It's not dangerous, but it's like, what does that mean about me? What does that mean about you? and it just makes you so uncomfortable. Or they're only interested in you. You're their only friend. You're their only social outlet. You're their only person in their life that matters, right? They put all their energy into you, right? It makes us uncomfortable. It makes us feel like this pressure of having to coddle them, having to take them around all the time, having to make sure that they're okay, as opposed to them being an independent person. So we're going to play a game. Do you remember, it was a few years ago now, but on social media, we were playing he's a 10, but, or she's a 10, but, and then we'd say something ridiculous. Well, we're going to do the same thing, but with yellow flags. So here, if you'd like, here's a QR code, and put something in there, like they're a 10, but, and then think of a yellow flag, something that makes you uncomfortable. They're a 10, but they're always comparing me to their ex. Right? That's more of a red flag, but, that's something that makes us uncomfortable. Or they're a 10, but they're always on their phone when I'm talking to them. Right? Can you think of a few of your own? Scan the QR code and put them in the chat. Or if someone has one, wants
The
to share.
QR code is going to what is an example of a toxic relationship in a show or movie.
Oh, really? Oh, weird. Okay, let me see. That's super weird. Okay, then just shout them out if y'all are comfortable with that.
They don't tip.
They don't tip.
They don't tip. They're a 10, but they don't tip. Yeah, that's really uncomfortable, and it makes us feel bad, right? And then what's that saying about how they're going to treat us later too? Awesome job. What else?
Their mom does their laundry.
Oh my gosh. They're a 10, but their mom does their laundry, right? That's a lack of maturity. That's a really good one. I've never heard that one before. They're a 10, but their mom does their laundry.
No hygiene.
No hygiene.
They're a 10, but they never shower. They have poor hygiene. Yeah, that's a great one. It shows how much they take care of themselves, like how much self-respect they have, how much consideration they have for the people around them. Awesome job. What else?
Not reliable.
They're not reliable. They don't show up. Awesome. Yeah. They're a 10, but they don't show up when they say they're going to be there, right? If they're supposed to come pick you up or meet you somewhere and they don't. Awesome job. Yeah, that's a huge yellow flag. It shows how much they care. Anything else? These were all great. Thank you for participating. Okay. Wow. All of your ex-girlfriends are crazy. That's such a weird coincidence for you, man. So weird how that happened for you. I didn't make this one either, but I thought that this was really funny when I saw it. And it's definitely a yellow flag. All right. So we're going to get into it, just a smidge of a more serious topic. Consent is really important, especially for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It's important that we know the rules of consent. Just so that we're all on the same page. Consent is what makes us feel safe and comfortable with intimate partners and with friends. So in Arkansas, in order for there to be consent, all parties need to be 16 or older. And I believe it's 16 to 20 is the range. And then after 18 is kind of free reign. All parties need to be awake, aware, sober, willing, and cognitively sound, but not just willing, not like, yeah, sure, like enthusiastically willing, right? Who wants to make out or like have sex with somebody who's like, yeah, I guess, right? That's so boring. Who wants to do that? Right? So we look for enthusiastically willing. Everyone needs to be awake. Cannot be asleep. They cannot be unconscious, aware and sober, in control of all their faculties, which means they cannot have alcohol or drugs in their system, and cognitively sound. They need to be of the legal emotional age as well. So they cannot be intellectually or cognitively below the age of 16. The absence of a no is not a yes. So we've always said no means no, no means no, no means no. But really, yes means yes, and everything else means no. The absence of a no, and I don't know, maybe, can we talk about it later? I don't know if I'm feeling all of that is still a no, right? Unless it's a verbal enthusiastic yes, it is a no. Consent can be withdrawn at any time. It doesn't matter if you are in the middle of having sex or doing some other intimate act. If they say, you know, can we stop, or I'm kind of tired, or I want to stop, I want to be done, that's it. Consent is removed, it is withdrawn, and it is no longer a legal act. Consent is conditional. Has anyone ever heard of stealthing? Probably not. It was a controversial conversation right around 2016. But stealthing was two people were engaging in sex, and the condition of the consent was that there was a condom present. And at one point, one party would remove the condom without telling the other partner and then continue to have sex with them. That act of removing the condom also was removed the condition that the consent was based on, right? Because the condition of the consent was the condom. So that then became sexual assault, that then became rape. And that is very illegal. So consent is conditional. You can make conditions on consent, that a condom is present, that one party is using some form of contraceptive or birth control, that you're only willing to do certain things. The conditions are very important because the conditions are the consent. And once those conditions are broken, consent is no longer there. Consent, asking consent for every step, right? If I consent to kissing, that does not mean that I consent to everything moving forward. We have to ask consent to make sure that everyone involved is still feeling comfortable and safe, right? Because if we just go ahead and move forward without checking on our partner, we don't know if they're feeling uncomfortable. We don't know if they're feeling violated. And we want everybody to be comfortable and safe and enjoying the intimate act, whatever it is. Just because somebody consented before doesn't mean they consent all the time. And just because they consented to one thing does not mean they consent to another. And then if at first it was a no, and then through begging and pleading and coercion and making them feel guilty, it then becomes a yes, it's still a no, right? It needs to be an enthusiastic, willing yes from the beginning, or else it is a no. So if any of these are the rules of consent. So if any of these are broken, that consent is no longer there, or there is no consent, and that act becomes a crime. It becomes a sexual assault, or anything that falls under that umbrella. Do we have any questions about consent? No? Okay. I think this map is so interesting. This is the map of the United States. I know y'all are in Arkansas, but who knows where you'll be when you grow up. And I'm sure that these numbers will change by the time y'all have kids. But these are really interesting numbers to know. These are all the ages of consent around the United States. And if any of you have younger siblings, this is good information to know. And I have a trivia question. So take a look at this map. Which state had the lowest age of consent until 2018? And what was the age? What do you think?
Alabama,
Very close.
Mississippi,
Mississippi. And what was the age?
14.
14. Yep. Wow, y'all are good at this. All right. So in 2018, Mississippi was the last state in the country to change their age of consent from 14 to 16 years old. And this was recent, right? 2018 was only, what, 7 years ago? Right? So it's really not that long ago. We're still just kind of learning and talking about this stuff. So it's very important for us to be at the forefront of these conversations, because y'all are adults and y'all are going to be the ones moving everything forward, right? So knowing these things and knowing, I mean, in my opinion, 14 years old is way too young to consent to sex and marriage. At 14, they were able to consent to getting married, but in my opinion, that's still a child bride. Think of who you were at 14 years old. Do you think that you were responsible or mature enough to make a decision about who you have sex with, or if you're ready to get married? What do you think? For me, I don't feel that way, but other people might disagree. But yeah, so knowing this stuff and moving forward, and making the world the way that you want it to be is really important. No means ask again. No. Throw that in a fire. No means no, and yes means yes. All right. Risk reduction activities. So if there was a button I could press that, I press this button and all the toxic people just kind of like disappear. Oh my gosh, I would slam that button so much. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So we have to be proactive in making sure that we are staying safe and that our friends are also staying safe. And one of those ways is situational awareness. Situational awareness is being observant of your environment. Who's in your environment? Who's in the room? What are they doing? Does anything feel off or look suspicious? It's being aware of the situations happening around you. I think it was very appropriately named. And I say this not only for bars or situations where there's alcohol or drugs present, like parties. This is all the time. It could be walking on campus at night or during the day. It could be, seeing an interaction that's a little unsavory, that makes us feel a little uncomfortable, right? Being aware of that stuff and keeping ourselves out of situations. If someone's standing by our car or standing by the door to our building, right? And it feels a little off, just kind of taking inventory of that, being aware of it and assessing, what threat level it is or where an exit strategy is or who to go to about it, right? That is situational awareness. It's being aware of the environment and then assessing how to be proactive. And then there's setting healthy boundaries, which we're going to get more into in just a moment. But I know it was brought up, so I feel like y'all have some experience with setting healthy boundaries, and that makes me really happy. When I started doing these talks years ago, no one knew what a boundary was. So it's really, really like it makes me feel so good that the conversations are moving and that we are having these conversations now. Recognizing the red flags that we spoke about, the jealousy and the possessiveness, the controlling behaviors, the history of cheating and gaslighting and manipulation. And then trusting your instincts. So knowing the yellow flags, the ones we just talked about. And then knowing your resources. So what resources do you have currently on campus that you can go to if you're feeling unsafe or uncomfortable or have experienced a toxic or abusive relationship or some form of assault? Tell me. What do you think? Do you have Title IX? Yes. Stacy is right here. Stacy's your Title IX coordinator, and she would be probably very happy to help you get to the resources you need, make reports if need be, and give you information for your own, self-care and health, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. You also have a wellness and counseling center, right? People there who are counselors who can talk to you and help guide you, help heal you, help talk through situations with you. And you have campus safety, right? They'll be able to take you to your car if you need to walk there at night and you're feeling afraid, or if you need help getting to a resource, or if you're feeling unsafe, right? Do you have those blue buttons in your parking lot and on your paths?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. So all of those are on-campus resources, and you also have professors and faculty and staff who would be more than willing to help you, at least get you to where you need to be. What about off-campus? What do we have? What do we have available?
The Ozark Rape Crisis Center.
A rape crisis center? Absolutely. Other nonprofits for domestic violence or for, other mental health needs. There's also hospital, police officers and security officers, doctors and therapists. There's a ton of resources around. And then what about family, right? Family and friends on or off campus. We have people around that can help us, right? Awesome. So I do want to just go over setting healthy boundaries. So boundaries are guidelines that we set that allow us to tell other people what our expectations are and allow other people to know what they can expect from us. It's not a rule. There's a difference between boundaries and rules. Rules are telling somebody, it's controlling, it's telling somebody what they can and cannot do. Boundaries are something we set so that other people know how to love and support us, right? So think of it like a user manual. In order for people to be in my life, they have to respect my boundaries. And so for me, for example, a boundary is I don't like being texted 3 times in a row. It makes me anxious because of toxic relationships I've had in the past where this one particular person would text me over and over and over again, and my phone would buzz, 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 buzz nonstop until it died. And it used to make me really anxious. Every time my phone would start buzzing, I would know I'm in trouble and that he was looking for me. And I didn't like that. It made me feel very scared and unsafe. So now I don't like it when people text me 3 times in a row for that same reason, that buzz, buzz, buzz. It like freaks me out, right? So the people in my life who love and respect me know, because I've told them my boundary, not to do that to me. But people who don't care and are not supportive of me or don't care about making me feel safe will continue to text me 10, 15 times in a row because they aren't conscientious of my safety, or my safety is not a priority to them. So there are 6 different types of boundaries. The first one's a physical boundary. That's your personal space, your body. So if somebody were to go into your room and go through your desk, or go through your backpack or your purse, right? Or go through your closet without permission, right? Does anyone have a sibling, a little sibling or an older sibling who used to steal your stuff? Like go through your closet and take your clothes?
Yeah, we've got some nods in the audience.
That's a physical boundary, right? That's my stuff. That's my environment. That's my space. And it makes me feel uncomfortable when you go through that, right? That's an example of a physical boundary. Or if you've ever gone to the gym and someone has touched your lower back, right? Or touched your arm and you didn't expect it, right? Does that make us feel good and safe, or does that make us feel uncomfortable? More likely than not uncomfortable, especially if it's not someone that you expected or know very well, right? Then there are sexual boundaries. That's expectations with intimacy. So consent. Consent is a sexual boundary. I am not interested in doing X, Y, and Z, right? It makes me uncomfortable when you ask me to fill in the blank. All of those things are sexual boundaries. It's a way for you to let intimate partners know how to make you feel safe and comfortable with them. Then intellectual and spiritual boundaries. That's your thoughts and your beliefs. That could even be politics, your political affiliation, right? You're entitled to believe and feel the way that you want to and the way that you do, right? And so for somebody to demean you because of your political affiliation or because of your opinion, which is derived from our experiences, is a disrespect to you, right? Does it make you feel safe to be around people that call you names because of how you feel politically or because of how you align politically? Does it make you feel safe and comfortable when somebody demeans you or insults you because of your religious affiliation or your religious beliefs? No, those are all boundaries that we can set. Those are intellectual and spiritual boundaries. I'm happy to have theological or political conversations with anyone, but there are certain topics that I don't want to talk about because I feel like it won't maintain a respectful conversation. I have one of my best friends of 25 years. He and I are very opposite when it comes to our politics. And so we can have respectful conversations, but there are 3 topics we cannot touch because the second any of those 3 topics come up, we get a little bit anxious or we get a little bit heated, right? And so then we don't stay on that respectful level. So you can have conversations with people if it can stay respectful, but a boundary can be, I'll talk to you about it, but the second it becomes heated, I'm gonna dip out. I'm just not interested. Or we can have conversations, but we cannot talk about these particular topics. Or I just don't want to talk about politics, or I just don't want to talk about religion because I respect you too much and don't want that to be problematic. Does that make sense?
Yes, lots of nodding heads.
Okay, perfect. And then there's emotional boundaries. That's your thoughts and your feelings and your openness. That's what you are and are not willing to share, right? I would not have the same conversations with my partner as I would with my dad. We are very different in relationships, right? So I would be way more open to talking about my bad day or something personal with my partner than I would with my dad. Not because my dad's a bad person, but because that's just not the relationship that we have. Boundaries don't need to be generalized for everyone. They can be specific to people, right? There are some people we feel more comfortable sharing things with, and some people we feel less comfortable sharing things with. So an emotional boundary can cover what you are and are not willing to share, but it can also cover what you are and are not willing to receive or to hear. Does anyone in the room have an emotional dumper in your family or friend group?
See some nodding heads.
Yeah. So thank you. So there are people in my life who I have to set firm boundaries with and say, listen, I don't have the bandwidth today to have this conversation with you. I'm really tired. I'm happy to talk about it another time. Maybe we can get coffee tomorrow morning and I'm here to listen, but tonight I really can't, right? Is that something that you feel comfortable saying to someone or moving forward could feel comfortable saying to any of those emotional dumpers? Any nods?
A couple, yeah.
Okay. So you're able to set those boundaries and say, I really can't have this conversation right now. Or I'm not the right person for you to talk to, but I can help you get to the right person, right? I don't know how to handle this situation, so let me get you to someone who can. The next one is financial or material boundaries. That's your money and your stuff, right? What you do and do not want to spend money on, what you do and do not want to do with your money, that is completely up to you. And nobody can force you to spend money you don't want to spend or force you to do with your money what you don't want or your things. An example for me is I don't like to lend out books. I have a library of books that mean something to me, whether they were written by friends and colleagues, or I have notes in them, or I like to reference them. It doesn't matter, they're mine, right? So my material boundary is that I will give a book recommendation. I will I will buy a book for somebody if they want it or need it, but I will never lend my books out because I don't get them back. And so my material boundary is I can do that for you, but I will not lend you my book because I don't want to chase you to get it back. And then the last one that's not on here is a time boundary. And I think this one is actually the most important for college students because you have so much on your plate, right? Raise your hand. Who here has classes? Who here? All of them. I hope all of them. Who here is affiliated with Greek Life or athletics or another organization?
Got some Greek life. Got some athletes here.
Some athletes, some Greek life. Okay. Who here has a social life? Likes to hang out with friends? Who here has homework to do and studying to do? Right? Who here has an off-campus or on-campus job? And who here likes downtime, just time to yourself to decompress? Right? We have a lot on our plates. Y'all have a ton on your plate, and pressure from other people to do with your time, what they want is not really fair to you. We're already spread very thin with our responsibilities. So a time boundary is what you are and are not willing to do with your time, right? If you have a paper due tomorrow or like tonight at midnight and your friends are saying, let's go to the dining hall, let's go hang out, let's go off campus, let's go do something, right? But you have stuff to do, your time boundary can say, listen, not tonight. I can't tonight. I have stuff to do. I have to get this paper done, right? And setting that time boundary is telling your friends what they can expect from you. I will not be out tonight, right? But if they then try and pressure you and say, oh, come on, you're so boring, right? You're always studying. Can you just live and let yourself live a little, right? It makes us feel guilty and it's disrespecting your time, right? You have a responsibility. You need to get this paper done. So your friends need to be respectful of that, right? So those are time boundaries. Do we have any questions about the different types of boundaries?
No.
Okay. So when it comes to setting boundaries, start small. It's like building a muscle, right? You can't just go to the gym for the first time and lift 100-pound weights. It doesn't work. You're going to hurt yourself, right? So with boundaries, starting small, it's like an intro. It makes us feel comfortable. And the more we set boundaries, the more comfortable we get setting boundaries. So the first boundary I ever set was that 3 text rule. Like, do not text me more than 3 times because it makes me uncomfortable. And then I got way better at setting boundaries. The more people I told, the more times I said it, the more comfortable and confident I got in in my ability to do so, and knowing that people will respect me, you know? And then I was able to set more and more boundaries. So now I'm very firm and very comfortable in my boundaries and setting boundaries. And the people in my life who I allow in my life respect my boundaries. And the people who don't respect my boundaries are no longer a part of my life, right? Because our energy is very important. And protecting our energy is very important. We are the only people who are going to advocate for ourselves the way we need to. Then we set them early. Set them early in the relationship, set them early when you establish them, but make sure the people who need to hear them. Because if you don't tell them, they're not mind readers, they won't know. And this resentment will grow, and then you won't want to be their friend anymore and they don't know why. Or you don't want to date them anymore and they don't know why. And then you have to be consistent, right? You have to communicate them, and then you have to defend them, right? Because if you say from 10 to 12 every day, that's my downtime, right? 10 p.m. to midnight, that's my downtime to just decompress and do my own thing. And then at 10:15, someone calls and says, hey, let's go out. And you say, okay, what did you teach them? You taught them that your boundaries are flexible and they're not firm boundaries. So if you're inconsistent, you're teaching people how to manipulate you, right? So if you say, I have to finish this paper, and then your friends invite you out and you say, you know what, fine, I don't need to, I'll just cram the paper later. You've taught them that when you have work to do, or when you say that you have work to do, that doesn't really mean anything, and they're going to keep asking you to hang out. With physical boundaries or time boundaries, something you can do is set a schedule, right? Set a time frame where you don't want to be bothered, or where you have stuff you need to do, right? It's like a work schedule. People should not be calling or texting you to hang out when you're working. So if you set a schedule or do something like that to set parameters so people know exactly when they can and cannot contact you, or can and cannot hang out with you, or can and cannot do whatever, that will help them follow the rules a little bit more. And then you have to be your biggest ally, right? You have to be consistent, stand up for yourself, defend your boundaries, and make sure people know that you're serious, because otherwise they're going to manipulate. They're going to push your boundaries. They're going to look at them as flexible and not real firm boundaries. So what's a boundary that you want to set today? We can do that. I think it's probably going to take us to the toxic thing again, which is very strange. But what's a boundary that you want to set today? Either try the QR code again, see if that one works. This is my first time using this program, so I have to get better at it. The Mentimeter.
It's still an example of a toxic relationship.
Let's see. Try now. See if it's the same thing. It looks the same to me.
It's still the same.
Okay. So then shout them out. What's a boundary that either you have set that has been helpful for you, or that you want to set starting today? If anyone wants to share. Another one of my boundaries is I don't like to be called after 8 p.m. unless it's an emergency. If your house is not on fire or someone's not going to the hospital, don't call me, because 8 p.m. and later is my downtime. To be fair, I'm a little older than most of you, but I spend my whole day working with survivors, through their healing process, talking about this heavy stuff and having these heavy discussions with students. And I travel quite a bit. So 8 p.m. is like my cutoff time for when I am willing to exert so much energy, right? So what's a boundary that you can set today that would make you feel comfortable and respected? What do you think? Does anyone want to share? It's okay if not, but I want you to take this as like a lesson moving forward. Think about ways that would make you feel safer with the people in your life. What are some things that some boundaries you can set that would make you feel respected and heard and understood? Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. All right. Final thing. I think so. Okay, follow me here. You wake up in the morning and first thing you do, you like stretch and get out of bed and you smack your hand on the wall and it hurts and that stinks. Then you get out of bed and you stub your toe on your dresser when you go to take something out. And then you're brushing your teeth and you accidentally drop your toothbrush in the toilet. You're just having a bad day. So then you go and meet up with friends for breakfast, or you head to class and you run into someone you know and you just start saying, oh my God, I've had the worst morning so far. It's only been 15 minutes and I've already stubbed my toe, smacked my hand, and dropped my toothbrush in the toilet. And they say, oh, relax, you'll be fine. It's not a big deal. Like, you'll get over it. How do you feel? What do you think? How do you feel?
Invalidated.
Invalidated. Absolutely. What else? Frustrated.
Yes.
Miffed.
Dismissed.
Oh, dismissed. Yeah, absolutely. Like minimized. Like what you've experienced doesn't matter, right? You feel dismissed. That was a really good one. So I want us to relax, calm down. You'll be fine. It's not a big deal. Time heals everything. I want you to take all of that out of your language, out of your head. Those are not validating responses that make us feel heard or important. Instead, I want us to replace that with, oh, that really stinks. I'm sure that's so difficult. Or, I can't imagine how you feel. Or can I give you a hug? Like, what can I do to make this better? Like, how can I support you? Right? Those are much better ways to say the exact same thing, but they are validating and empowering. So it makes you feel heard. It makes you feel important. It makes you feel validated, right? It makes us feel like we're cared for and cared about. So can we all agree to move forward, not saying things like, relax, calm down, you'll be fine, right? Because it's not supportive, it's not nice, and it's not empathetic, right? We want to lead with empathy. I'm sure that's really difficult. How can I help you? What can I do right now to support you? Can we agree to that?
Nodding heads.
Some nodding heads. Okay. All right. Do we have any questions about any of the things that we talked about today?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me. Again, I'm really sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm so bummed. But thank you very much for participating and for chatting with me. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation and that you will have a takeaway, something that you can leave here with feeling stronger and more confident in relationships. The QR code on the screen will take you to a quick survey. I think it's like 7 or 8 questions, so easy. And if you go through the whole thing and put in your email, I promise, I'm raising my right hand, I promise I will not email you. I find that so annoying. But it will send you a free copy of my internationally best-selling book, Love Yourself First, Letters of Self-Love, Healing, and Growth. They are real people who wrote real letters to themselves about how self-love helped them grow through their trauma. So thank you again very, very much for having me. I hope I have the opportunity to see you in person.
Thank you so much, Marissa. And thank you all for being here today. Make sure you grab some swag in the back. We've got bags that have a lot of good information in them. We've got notebooks. We've got a lot of stuff back there. So thank you again for being here. Hope to see you guys soon.
Thank you very much.